have to bring back law and order.
Well, isn't that just special? Let's see how MAGA would respond to something like this, shall we?
Is everybody excited to vote for a convicted felon? Yeah! We are living in the dumbest timeline right now.
Of course, they applaud it. So much for the law and order crowd.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. This is the story of Donald Trump. His entire life, Trump has believed he's above the law, that no one would ever dare hold him accountable. He lies, he rips off workers, he sexually abuses women.
Hey, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
He cheats in business. He cheated on his wife with a porn star and paid her off so the American people wouldn't find out during an election. But in the criminal justice system, ordinary Americans have had the courage to find him accountable, time and time again.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Donald Trump, guilty on all 34 felony counts.
For the first time in history, we have a convicted felon running for president.
Keep this in mind, if you will.
Do you think there isn't enough law and order in the country?
I do not think there is.
You don't think there's law and order?
Not really.
Really? Are you going to be voting for the convicted felon?
Of course.
Because they won't.
One of the reasons he has thrived as an entrepreneur is because he listens to everyone.
A flat-out lie here.
And how much money did you end up losing?
Well, losing is, I was shortchanged well over $100,000.
Did it have a lasting impact on your firm?
Well, certainly it did. It was a grave disappointment. We were paid at the end a small sum, roughly 15 cents on the dollar relative to what we had rightfully billed in accordance with multiple agreements.
So tell me what this is.
This was in the meeting that Mr. Trump, sitting at his desk, just picked up a black Sharpie, circled it, and said, "Love." He wrote that.
Donald Trump says that his experience as a businessman makes him qualified to be president. You're someone who's done business with him. Do you think that's true?
No, I do not think that's true.
This is just one example of many from Trump's putrid business practices.
What's your sign mean?
I mean, just what it says. I'd absolutely rather vote for Trump, convicted felon, over any Democrat right now. Anybody that's representing Biden or any of his administration, they've absolutely tried to drive our country into the ground, and if they continue to be in office, they will.
What would it take for you to not vote for Trump? What would he have to do?
He'd have to do some pretty bad stuff. I mean, yeah.
Like what? Do you know?
You get into, trafficking people and stuff like that. That's usually what'll deter somebody. I think that would probably do it to me.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions. If you would vote, tell me if you'd vote for Trump or not, okay?
Sure.
If Trump was convicted of tax evasion.
I'll vote for him, yeah.
If he didn't pay construction workers on some of his properties.
Yeah, I'm still going to vote for him. I'm going to end the interview.
And like always, MAGA cannot defend the indefensible, so they abruptly cut off an interview, like one did here with Jason Selvig of The Good Liars.
Proverbs 29, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. So that would seem to endorse the use of corporal punishment. I am aware, somebody mentioned American Pediatrics thinks that it's a bad thing. I beg to differ, and I have a greater authority.
Oklahoma Republican Jim Olson, who believes in protecting children, espoused a need for punishment on the special needs in schools. The whole "we must protect the kids" rhetoric is a farce on this side of the aisle. Here's another example.
Seems like there's a lot of stuff that's inappropriate for kids at a Trump rally.
Oh, I haven't seen any of that. Yeah, okay.
Let's go look at the shirts. You want to see them?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's take a look. here. So, what does this one say right here?
Yeah. Joe in the... Yeah, so But
Is that appropriate for kids?
No, but that's the seller.
You think anyone's wearing a shirt here? I don't know if that's appropriate. Just at a Trump rally. Let's go look at some more.
Okay, well, no, I gotta get going. I have a book I gotta buy. Spent lots of good time talking.
Let's just look over here. I want to show you one other shirt. Yeah. Hey, let's just say. What's this one? What does that say? What does that say there?
Oh yeah, no, I don't use foul language. Yeah. No, but I wouldn't buy that.
But that's not appropriate for kids to see, right?
No, I wouldn't say so. No.
Look no further than a Donald Trump rally.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Look, he said it.
Would you like to see him go after Democrats?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Democrats.
Would you like to see him throw Democrats in jail?
Absolutely.
Potentially charge them with treason?
What's that?
Charge them with treason?
Absolutely.
On what grounds?
And they make sure we're reminded.
He's tried to escape any responsibility for instigating the January 6th attack on our Capitol.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
And if elected, Trump has promised to overturn laws that would keep him accountable and exact retribution on anyone he considers an enemy, even warning of a bloodbath if he doesn't get his way.
Scary, but true. Still.
What do you think happened on January 6th?
I think that was a setup to try to set him up so he couldn't be elected for president again. I think that was a complete setup from day one.
Do you think they set up the Stop the Steal rally that Donald Trump had?
I saw a video with the guy standing there that had a badge showing other guys. Yeah.
There were a lot of police officers off duty that were there that day.
Yeah, why were they there? If it wasn't
They were Trump supporters. They were Trump supporters.
So I saw them also lock up cops and then release them. So
MAGA voters continue living in denial of our reality.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. Why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
He was convicted in the documents case. Would you vote for him?
Yeah. I've been a Trump supporter since 2016.
What about if he was convicted in the January 6th, the election?
Yeah.
What about the Georgia case?
Republican through and through. So, yeah, he's my president.
It wouldn't matter how many felonies he got. You would still vote for him.
I would still vote for him.
What if he committed other crimes? What if he committed robbery?
Depends on what type of robbery. You know, if it's a huge amount of robbery, then yeah. Murder, yeah. Those are bad crimes.
If he didn't pay some of his construction workers on some of his projects?
I think he did. I definitely 100% think he it's all talk that he says that, but he's a good businessman.
It reminds me a lot of the flag waving and choreographed patriotism that we had back in Nazi Germany a half a century ago. The fact that we got a one-party system which is in control of all three branches of our government, lapdog media that's cranking out propaganda for the administration and make a Nazi blush. Other than that, we're doing pretty good.
The legend Chris Christopherson. You know, when the late Sinead O'Connor tore up a photo of the Pope on Saturday Night Live to, as PBS put it, protest against systemic child abuse in the Catholic Church, of which she was a survivor, O'Connor felt the backlash for some time, including at a Bob Dylan show at Madison Square Garden for his birthday. As the Boo Birds rang down, Christopherson, the man seen right here, had a simple message.
They told me to get her off the stage, and I said, I'm not about to do that. I went out and I said, don't let the get you down.
There are many stories of his iconic status in society and leftist politics, but one that stands out allegedly involves this guy pictured with him. The story goes the nameless singer had a huge hit about bombing America's enemies until there was nothing left. This was when Willie Nelson turned 70. It was a birthday function. There's almost no doubt, according to some reports, that it was this dude. From Rolling Stone's Ethan Hawke, yes, the actor. Keith said happy B-Day to Nelson, then allegedly told Christopherson, none of that lefty stuff out there tonight, Chris. Christopherson would ask what the star had said. You heard me, he uttered back. Don't turn your back to me, boy, Christopherson shouted. Some of the biggest names in music were watching it all unfold backstage at the Beacon Theater. Christopherson would ask rhetorically, you ever worn your country's uniform? The reply was simply, what? Christopherson fired back, don't what me, boy. You heard the question. You just don't like the answer. Have you ever served your country? The answer is no. You have not. He'd continue. Have you ever killed another man? Huh? Have you ever taken another man's life and then cashed the check your country gave you for doing it? No, you have not. So shut the F up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. The young star would simply say, whatever. The best line of it all? Christopherson would say to Rolling Stone's Hawke, you know what Waylon Jennings said about guys like him? Hawke shook his head. They're doing to country music what Pantyhose did to finger effing, Christopherson stated. To say he was the epitome of an American is a severe understatement. Christopherson was featured in Sports Illustrated. Yes, that's Sports Illustrated. The year was 1958. Chris would play tons of sports, including rugby, football, and even competed in the Golden Gloves boxing tournament. When asked by Men's Journal if he has any scars, he'd answer, I got scars on my face that tell some kind of story. I'm looking in the mirror, and I got one scar that's really two scars. Half from a baseball bat and half from playing football in college. I'll tell you though, after a while your face gets so wrinkled up you can hardly see them. He'd also be asked who was the toughest man he has ever known.
Whenever people want to really make progress, some have to sacrifice a lot, and I like to say white America right now is spending $30 million a day in Asia. Black and white boys are dying unjustly for nothing just to free somebody else. So why should I worry about going to little old jail to free my poor people who's been catching hell here for 400 years?
This was his answer. The greatest, Muhammad Ali. On the topic of boxing, Men's Journal would ask, what is the best way to win a bout? Here was his answer. I boxed in Golden Gloves at Oxford and still know how to throw a straight left jab. Your weight has to be behind the punch to make it better. Put your left foot in front of you, your right foot behind you. As you punch, your shoulder and hips come around, but you don't want to cock your arm. Just extend your arm straight out. It's effective. I once broke a guy's nose in the alley in Germany and didn't have to throw any more punches. This was also a man who was a Rhodes Scholar, but left before earning his degree to become a helicopter pilot in the United States Army. He would leave his role as an Army Airborne Ranger to pursue music. His politics, meanwhile, aligned with someone who, to put it simply, got it. In the 80s, he began pushing his political beliefs to the forefront. He would speak out against the United States' involvement in Central America, both in the press and in his songs, in his lyricism. Furthermore, in a 1991 interview, he was broached on the following subject: the state of the United States, the imminent Iraq war. Quote, it reminds me a lot of the flag waving and choreographed patriotism that we had back in Nazi Germany a half century ago. With a lapdog demagogue media that's cranking out propaganda for the administration that make a Nazi blush. Via The Nation, he also did benefit concerts for Palestinian children and saw his career suffer as a result. Surprise, surprise. Quote, I found a considerable lack of work after doing concerts for the Palestinian children, he would say. And if that's the way it has to be, that's the way it has to be. If you support human rights, you gotta support them everywhere. Amen. Laura Barton of The Guardian added of his political songs, he would produce The Law is for the Protection of the People. 1986's What About Me, which questioned the right-wing military hostility in Central America, and 2006's anti-war anthem In the News. The documentarian Ken Burns would tweet, I loved everything about Chris Christopherson. He was a poet of the everyday. You can find joy even in his sad songs, and that awareness of joy is what he calls a blessing. He will be missed. When I look back on this man's legacy, it is impossible to fit into a video, a clip, because what I see, and as we have covered, is the transformation of an entire genre being hijacked by the worst bad faith actors politically, using it as leverage in order to woo the masses into thinking that it is their home turf of a genre. And I disagree with that premise, because country music was not founded on licking the boot of a billionaire or going to war against folks that are not our enemies, but through the demonstrations via mass media are painted as cartoonish villains that we have to bomb incessantly. What I would say is this is a genre of music that represents everyday people. They represent the poorest, they represent the working class, they represent the middle class, they represent unions, they represent labor, they represent anti-racism. What they represent is the complete inverse of Jason Aldean's stupid ass song. I'm sorry for cussing. It's the inverse of Toby Keith. It is the inverse of mainstream country. And what frustrates me is this identity, its origins, have been completely whitewashed. And now when you see country, you see flag humping, Trump loving listeners. And that is not what it is about in the slightest. And that's also why a lot of people, don't get me wrong, it's very popular, but a lot of people have been turned off by it, is because it doesn't represent their laurels. And if you go through music history, one will easily find that there are many answers to their questions, and it is not loving the people that you think care about you, which are the bad faith actors that I listed and then some.
And you're seeing unprecedented unity here for President Trump.
Indeed. Yeah.
I think that's what's important.
The irony of Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz saying this is moments prior at the RNC.
Speaking. What night are you speaking? Are you speaking tonight? One person. No. Hey, you're not. If you took that stage, you would get booed off of it. You would get booed off the stage.
This is what he did to former Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. Great unity indeed.
They openly campaigned for racial reparations and bigoted policies that target white people. Let's not prove our valor by enduring pain. I'd like to start dishing it out. Less fortitude, more attitude.
Funny enough, Gaetz thinks he's making a solid point here.
Reparations are the act of making amends to someone or a group of people who have been wronged. Germany paid billions of dollars in reparations to Holocaust victims or their families and to Israel after the Nazi atrocities of World War II. And in 1988, the U.S. paid more than 80,000 Japanese Americans who were held in internment camps during World War II. They each got $20,000. But African Americans have never gotten reparations for their 246 years of slavery.
To be against reparations is unjust. It is not only needed, but should be demanded.
We, of course, want to take time to mourn the loss of innocent life, but we should not wait in acting to prevent these frequent aggressive acts from happening in the future. Democrats want to blame guns, of course. But we know it's not that simple.
Actually, it kind of is that simple if we look at the data.
The FBI tracks mass shootings where 4 or more people are killed. Looking back over time, you can see that the number of these events and the fatalities have risen dramatically. But one undeniable fact is that there are more civilian-owned guns per person here in the US than anywhere else in the world. In fact, when you break down the number of firearms in the US, it comes down to more than 1 gun per person. And that number is also climbing. There was a ban on assault rifles in 1994, but it was dropped 10 years later when a Republican-led Congress failed to renew it. In the years since, assault rifles like the AR-15 have been used in some of the country's deadliest mass shootings.
But Gates, a well-off congressman who alleges he takes no corporate money, yet has been compensated well, has taken donations from the likes of the NRA and many more.
Good people have a right to exist in the country without wondering if some crazy leftist or mentally ill individual lurking around the corner is about to post up and kill you.
An interesting take here, Mr. Gates.
This weekend's mass murder in Texas, the deadliest shooting of the year, eclipsing the ongoing mourning for what was the deadliest shooting of the year when a suspect, citing racist replacement theory, killed 10 in a Buffalo supermarket.
Racist replacement theory is the neo-schmozzy great replacement theory, practically a staple in Republican dialogue and circles these days. But let's not beat around the bush. The evidence does not point to leftists. The numbers lay bare at the reality. Right-wing extremists committed every ideological-driven mass killing identified in the United States in the year 2022, with an unusually high proportion perpetrated by white supremacists, wrote Axios. Another talking point by Gates and the like is mental illness via American Progress. Despite many conservative politicians' and the NRA's frequent invocation of mental illness, little evidence exists to suggest that mental illness is to blame for U.S. mass shootings. They'd go on to write, fact, while every country is home to people living with mental illness, the United States is the only country in the world that experiences mass shootings daily. An estimated 1 in 5 Americans live with a diagnosed mental illness. While other countries have similar levels of mental illness, none have the levels of mass shootings that the United States does. Moreover, countries with strong gun oversight experience significantly less gun violence.
Critical race theory is an explicitly racist ideology, and critical race theory is everywhere.
Obviously, none of this is true, but Republicans ran on it over and over again to then potentially open up the voter base to white people are under attack, which potentially, in a conservative politician's eyes, gets them down the pipeline to spout great replacement theory and then vote for them.
It's inconceivable that a white teacher would be teaching white children that they are evil because they're white. But that's what people think. Even though it's blatantly false. Critical race theory is an intellectual sort of field that emerged in the late 1970s and early 1980s among legal scholars and lawyers who were recognizing that racial disparity was persisting despite the public pronouncements that all these laws on the books were race neutral. And so these scholars recognized that something was wrong here and that they had to take a new critical approach to examining the law, to examining policies, to examining structures which they recognized were the source of these continuing disparities and not what's wrong with people.
Here's another boogeyman to the right who lays out what exactly CRT is, Ibram X. Kendi.
Like, why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions? Nobody wants to impregnate you if you look like a thumb. These people are odious on the inside and out. They're like 5'2", 350 pounds, and they're like, give me my abortions or I'll get up and march and protest. And I'm thinking, march? You look like you got ankles weaker than the legal reasoning behind Roe versus Wade. A few of them need to get up and march. They need to get up and march for like an hour a day, swing those arms, get the blood pumping, maybe mix in a salad.
This is an insane thing to say from a lawmaker, showing so much about not only his character, but what conservative voters really want.
This morning, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is under investigation. The House Ethics Committee revealing that it is continuing to probe Gaetz over explosive allegations, including that he engaged in sexual misconduct and illicit drug use. use, accepted improper gifts, and that he sought to obstruct government investigations of his conduct.
Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYTsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.